Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on Little Slaw YouTube channel. And this is 2024, and this is my first video for the year. And we will see more informative and useful videos in this year as well. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you have not subscribed yet. Please keep supporting our channel by subscribing and like and share the video with your friends. So in this video we're going to see about uniform random timer, which is one of the timer under the JMeter. So let me show you. So click on the script. So here I have already created a script. I do not want to waste your time, so I have already created a script with just 4 steps, and I will show you how to use the uniform random timer, and also I will show you the steps or the advantages of using this random uniform random timer, and also I will show you what are the limitations of using it. So first, when you click on the script and on the add under the timer, you can see the uniform random timer, which is the second timer from the top after the constant timer. So in case if you have not visited my videos on constant timer and constant throughput timer, please do check the links. I have already created a videos on constant timer and constant throughput timer. So now this video is going to be for uniform random timer. And before we add the uniform random timer, I will tell you. So here we have the transaction controller, and under this transaction controller we have the transaction or the request which we send. So basically, or most of the times when people start scripting, they might have a confusion that whether I should add the timer inside the transaction controller or outside the transaction controller. So what happens when you add the random timer or any timer, if you add them inside the transaction control? Say for example, let me just change this to step 1 01 underscore step 01, and then it's going to be 02, then this is going to be step 3, and then the last step, which is step 4. So now we have 4 steps. So I have added the uniform random timer in step 1, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a listener, which is the view results tree, which basically will show us what happens during the execution, and then the summary report, which will tell us the minimum, maximum, and average response time. And after that, I'm going to add another listener, which is aggregate graph. So now I have added a uniform random timer inside a transaction controller. Meanwhile, I'll add another uniform random timer outside the. So for now, okay, let me just demo you what happens if we add a uniform random timer inside a transaction, and we will see how does it work. So when we go to the uniform random timer, we can see there are 2 delays. One is the random delay maximum in milliseconds, and then we have the constant delay offset. So what is random delay and what is constant delay? So the random delay maximum is something, if we give, for example, like 10 seconds, so that is going to be the maximum delay, the random delay. So when it says it's a random delay, it can increase or decrease for every iteration or for every time when it gets hit. But when it comes to the constant delay, it's going to be the constant delay. So for example, let me show you. So let me keep the random delay to 10 seconds, and I'm just keeping the constant delay to 0. And let me just move this outside the script, sorry, outside the transaction for a moment, and I'll show you what happens. So now the timer is outside the script or the request, and let me do one single iteration and I'll show you what happens. So let me just save this first. and let me just start the test again. And here now we are waiting for, so here you can see on the top right, we have waited for 10 seconds. Now it's been increasing more. So let's see when does we get the first hit or when we get the first transaction. Sorry, I think I have been in the wrong view results tree. So let me run it again. So let me start the test again and click no, open to existing file. So let's see again the timer here. So now it's 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have got the first request in the 5th second, and after that all the transactions have started to come for every 3 to 4 seconds of delay. And now the test is completed. So it's more than enough. You can add one uniform random timer and that will give the delays for each of the transactions, right? So for example, let me make the random delay to 0 and I will add the constant delay to 10 seconds. And let me run the test again. Let's go back to the view results tree, and meanwhile, yeah, let me just clear this and let's start the test again. And now let's wait for the request to get hit. So currently we are in our 5th, 6th, 7th, and we have to wait for 10 seconds, and after 10 seconds we will get the first hit or the first step, and then we have to wait for another 10 seconds because this uniform random timer, if you add it once, that's more than enough because it will distribute the timer for all the transactions that we have inside the script. So for example, like if we add a uniform random timer inside the script anywhere we can add it, and this will distribute the timer. Say for example, like it will give 10 seconds for the first transaction and then 10 seconds for the second transaction, or whatever, like the timer, it can be 10 or it can be any time that we give here. So for in this case we have added 10 seconds as constant delay, so that's the reason we can see a 10-second of delays. So in some of the scenarios where people might add multiple uniform random timer, or they might add uniform random timers after every transaction, but in this case just have one uniform random timer and that's more than enough. So for example, like even if I move it on top of all the scripts, and let me just change it to 5 seconds to see the results quick, and let me start the test again. Open the existing file, and you can see after every 5 seconds we can see the request that's getting hit. See here. So when it comes to the uniform random timer, you can place it anywhere inside the script and it will automatically trigger the timer, or it will automatically trigger the delays. Even in fact, the very first thing that we tried, we can even move this inside the script. So now I have moved it inside the script, and let's see how does it work. Let me go back to the view results tree. Now we have 5 seconds as delay, so let's wait for every 5 seconds to see one request to get hit. So now we have completed the first second. Okay, so when we are keeping the random timer inside the transaction, what happens here is this uniform random timer, or the timer, is only for this particular step, which whatever we have inside we have placed. If we are placing this uniform random timer outside all the transactions, then it is paying the, or it's giving the timer, or it's adding the delays for each transaction. But if in case if we are adding it inside the transaction, then as we see all the time, this particular step, the first step, only has the timer and not the other steps, because the scope, again this is more into the scope, so the scope gets limited to the first step and it's not for the all other steps. So in case if you want to add the timer, so there is one more thing which I want to show you, which here is just wanted to check whether the timer or the delay gets added in the response times. But here we can see there is, surprisingly, we could not see the delay, the 5 seconds in the result. So here you can see the average response time is 135 milliseconds. So in that case, again, because in other tools, like for example, if you are using load runner and neoload, if you are adding a delay inside the transactions, those delays will get added to the response times. But in JMeter, it's very well executed that even if we add the timer inside the transaction, it does ignore the timer. So the reason here is why we can use, or why do we need to use this, is in case if you want to delay a particular transaction, or if you want to limit a transaction to a particular amount of time, you can use this. Because in most of the scenarios when people sometimes ask is like, I just want one particular transactions to iterate just one time and it has to wait for a long time. So in those scenarios you can use this uniform random timer by keeping them inside the transaction, and you can just limit their scope and you can increase their waiting time. With that you can, or you are very good to make them wait until you want to keep the user waiting, or you do not want to give any extra hits, or do not want to give extra load to the test. So this is how the uniform random timer works. So in our next video we will see about a different timer and how does it work and what are all their scope and how does they really help you in executing your load test. So until we meet in another interesting video, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Slav.